Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at what I've named Endless Artifacts. So this deck predominantly relies on the fact that you can spam artifacts over and over, taking the best parts of my previous artifact portal deck and throwing some of the new cards in it to make it work. So a couple of the new additions, Nora of History, a pretty awesome card. I mean, does the job with its prime artifacts, basically being a worse Mordecai, but serving a different purpose when it comes to artifacts in general. It is also an artifact puller on Evolve, the same as Icarus, which makes it quite a reliable card. It also has no conditions attached, which is why I use it over the other silver card at the moment, although I will be testing that very soon. Then we have Cat Cannoneer, helps deal with more aggressive decks like Blood or Sword, along with the pretty standard cards that you would run anyway. The only other really new addition is God Bullet, which isn't a new card, but really helps support this archetype, especially when you're trying to get your prime artifacts to go off. So really the only new addition overall being prime artifact, and a slight readjustment to the deck in general really helps it out. Of course, I am still refining this deck down to make it a lot better, and we've got a few other portal decks to go over in the future. Probably in the next few videos I've got some hybrid portal and a cannon portal and things like that I'm testing out that are more interesting. But for the moment, this is the one that I've been playing, and it's done reasonably well, working with a few different win conditions, whether it's God Bullet, purely Storm through Radiance, Saphira win con, or just outplaying your opponent with the deck. It really has that kind of variation. It's definitely a more aggressive deck, but overall does the job. So we'll get right into it and check it out. So our first matchup is going to be against Sword. Sword has been quite popular as of the start of this expansion, as it normally is, because its aggressiveness is always quite solid and reliable, so it's not surprising that this is taking one of the top slots right now alongside Blood, which is highly aggressive. You'll notice that a lot of aggro decks will be around at the moment. That's because aggro is your most reliable deck at the start of an expansion. It's quick, it's easy, and it does a lot of burst damage, whereas control and mid-range decks haven't really been fine-tuned enough to really reliably beat them. I'm sure we'll see a shift after the first week or so, and that's when things will get a lot more interesting. So we start off with our standard line play. Always good if you have a 2-drop that can put artifacts in your deck, especially if you have Deus Ex Machina in your hand. Of course, Portal now doesn't actually need to rely on Machina quite as much, thanks to the addition of Prime Artifact, especially in this deck in particular, because Prime Artifact can be so reliably played over and over again, becoming a constant threat to your opponent. And there is our God Bullet Golem, a card that I don't use too much, which is why I think I'm only running 2 in this deck in particular. It's still a super good card, but I think one or two is just enough of it to really make it work as an alternate win con. And then we have our chance to use our substitution and actually go for a complete board wipe here.
Go ahead, try these girls out.
So Nora of History, still think that's quite a good card, mainly because of its ability to pull and put a prime in your deck, so it gives you double the chance.
Connect with her.
Of course, we do pull out Analyzing Artifact that we put in earlier, which is still pretty reasonable.
The battle is far from
so Frontline Cavalier kind of ruins this. A little disappointed.
Victory or death!
Lovely day for a fight!
Eat up! See you again.
And of course we do have a Sphere in our hand now, but playing this Deus Ex on this turn is actually probably my better play, mainly because I'm not in Resonance and I can easily trade with this 4-1 while setting up a body that has to be dealt with immediately.
Forgive me.
This will at least draw some of the damage from Sword here, while at the same time allowing me to play all the cards I could want next turn.
The gears of fate still turn.
Especially with Spinaria and our artifact, along with Hamlin, which is great.
Join me on a musical journey.
Unfortunately, we can't play them in the order I would like. I would have preferred to have gone Spinaria into our artifacts, but we just don't have the points to do that, so at least filling the board as much as we can and only sacrificing these 3 cards is a little more reasonable. And if we get a lucky ping, we can kill with 2-1, so it's not too bad a chance. Unfortunately, it's a miss, but still sets us up pretty well.
This strategy will do it.
So Hope strategists, they go on the defensive.
We won't give him an inch.
Which isn't surprising. I've seen that card used on the defensive more often than not.
It won't be long now. I will win this battle.
The march goes on.
So we do see them basically trading with me, which is perfectly fine. It's what you want when you're playing Portal. If your opponent is forced to trade with your board and then you just fill it up again, what are they really going to do? And this is where we can go pretty much hard on the Radiance. Pushing out as much as we kind of want and staying out of resonance, which is a huge advantage.
Awaken.
Also setting up the Accelerating a little early, always a good thing, especially in case we draw another Radiant artifact. It means we are able to play both in a single
100
turn.
battlefields, 100 prizes.
But Gwen is the drop for them, so they do get these trades. Quite valuable,
My love is a
especially if you get
treacherous
Princess Juliet here. So I do decide to use the substitution. And I do decide to use the puppet. Might not have been the right choice. Radiant artifact might have been a bit better. It would have just pinged it anyway, so I could have at least saved the puppet. But not really something I was too overly worried about.
You wouldn't.
I mean, with 3 cards in their hand, no more Albert because of rotation, and the fact that we can just burst out as much as we want, we're pretty set, especially with Saphira. Saphira set up alone should be enough to at least get us
It all
close to
ends
lethal.
here.
Probably not this turn, but definitely in the
Lovely
next
day
turn.
for a
Eat up.
fight.
Eat up. So alone.
So the Excel is definitely good, it definitely helps us out. Especially with another Radiant. It does mean we get the chance to remove a few things.
Twilight.
And we can stay out of resonance.
Weapons, got you covered.
So this is the more Radiant leaning win condition, using the storm
wouldn't.
damage that I can gather. Along with the Saphira as just kind of a final push.
This strategy will do
So at
it.
this point, Saphira definitely has enough to just lethal them straight away.
Give him an inch.
This ward does present a problem, but it's probably something we're not going to have any trouble dealing with, as they don't have any way to really deal with my board. Especially with only 3 points left.
The legend begins.
So all we really need to do is take out the 1/1 and go face. Which Saphira or Radiant are perfect.
Your
for that.
time is up.
A really easy
I
way
should
to
have foreseen
win
this.
when using this deck. Just force them out. Next up, Dragon. This is probably one of the decks I've struggled against most since rotation, mainly because I'm just not sure how to handle some of their cards when they come out.
Bow before Dark Dragoon, ruler of the
For the most part, I don't normally do too bad. Of course, these double synthetics are really bad to keep, and a Cindel Acceleradium on their own without any kind of 2-drop, I always feel really bad about keeping. So, dropping everything, probably the best way to go, especially since we did end up drawing a 2-drop, and a couple of decent 3-drop plays. Dragon's Nest seems to be the way they're going, an interesting one. And we now have a pretty perfect curve. 2 into 3s are pretty amazing. Even if we use a 3-drop on 5, it's not that bad either. And even better when you get a 2-drop to go along with it. So we've basically got a perfect curve, for all intents and purposes. Especially with Dragoon Scythe getting a drop. It definitely opened up that substitution play nicely. And drawing Des up the top also means we've now got our opener, so we don't have to worry about flooding our deck too much.
Still no match for Mr. Dragon. There's a lot more where that
Because they're going to ramp and trade.
I won't let you harm Mr.
Still not
Dragon.
quite enough to really take advantage of those amulets yet.
Blasters aren't cheap,
And we also have this puppet, which, if we want, could be an amazing play.
Coming at you.
So I do send the Evolve on the Knower of History, really aiming to draw out an artifact. Do get the the Ancient Artifact, which is great. Not quite as good as what other cards could have been. Of course, we're still dealing damage to their face, which is important.
Rescuing people's a hobby of mine.
And without Salamander, we don't really have any big threats against us that easily.
Dragon Strike Blade. Damn.
Ready to witness
Dragon
my
Strike
first
Blade
strike?
really isn't a problem.
I see justice through. That's it.
So do so to take that out.
Again.
But at this point, we've got a pretty solid board. I don't really want to play the Des just because I don't want to waste all this hand yet. And I'd rather set up some more Flood first. And with Des next turn, I can easily drop my Ancient and my not my other artifact, what is it? Analyzing Artifact. I always forget sometimes when I'm trying to go over Ancient Analyzing. So many A's. 2 Breasts. Not a card I've messed around with yet. I haven't actually messed around with any Dragon deck in particular. I am missing the Dragon Legendaries, which makes it a little bit of a pain. So it's probably not something I'm going to be able to play immediately. I'm mostly sticking to Haven Blood and Portal messing around with.
This machine shall weave your
Although I will be looking into a more aggressive buff forest as well soon. So Analyzing Artifact and Ancient Artifact. Ancient Artifact is a perfect trade.
Now,
Although the Analyzing does put me into Resonance, so that's why that's slightly better. Being able to be in Resonance now and get a full hand is going to be more important against Dragon. With that, the Radiant Artifact actually gives us a huge advantage. I mean, they just forced so much removal to clear that board, only to see that whole board come back in the following turn anyway. So we decided to focus on the Radiants. I mean, at this point we're just looking for a win condition, so Radiants being in the deck are always going to be important.
join me on a musical journey.
Since we are going to be stuck in Resonance anyway, we may as well push out every single card here, excluding Saphira. And of course the Ancient, because we can't quite fit it on board, but the Analyzers are better just because they are draw power on their own. And with 2 Radiant Artifacts and Des Effect on board, we easily have lethal, provided they don't absolutely block my turn. So double Radiant Artifact does close this one out.
This victory is a testament to your strength.
Radiant's really pulling their weight for these matches. Now, I've saved probably the best match for last, I think. I mean, this one's pretty cool.
Activate. Enhance.
Definitely a different kind of way to go about it.
Prepare for defeat.
And I thought it'd be great because we're against Aggro Blood, one of the other pretty popular decks at the moment for being quite strong. The real advantage here is that we are going first, which means Aggro Blood's at a slight disadvantage. Although I think it's a lot more even than it used to be in the case of Aggro Blood, just because of how Aggro Blood works now. Their evos can be absolutely devastating now with the extra, so it really just comes down to who can present their board better. And in this case, with this Portal deck, my followers are just that little bit
Go
stronger.
ahead. Try these girls out.
So getting that Prime Artifact in the deck early always feels good. And they are using their bats
See you again.
super early, obviously having no other use.
You might say I'm a genius.
And Icarus gets to see its way onto the board.
Light for all the world.
That's a pretty good counter. Unfortunately, Amaterasu does counter this in general.
This is
At
the
first, I thought they were going for a
real
pure
show.
aggro bat, but now I'm starting to wonder whether that was the case or not.
Totally burns.
After all, I do expect aggro bats to have a few variations and not just one standard, but
Keep me company.
I think running Amaterasu is just a little odd.
Awaken.
Although it could make sense due to the fact that Tsukiyomi is actually really good for any kind of aggression because it does present constant clash damage. So maybe that was the reason that they wanted to go with something like that. So it is still possible that could end up taking a place in these kind of aggro decks. Especially if it is more of a bat-focused self-damage deck, that would make things a lot more interesting. So we do get to see the Tsukiyomi this time.
Welcome to the world of
Of course, I mean, my Banish is a perfect counter to this. Being able to remove it immediately. And this time setting up Excel just because I know I can drop Desert next turn and I can start playing anything like that. I could actually also just drop the Prime artifact, use its Rush effect, and take advantage of a couple of other artifacts. Which honestly is a really good way to set up this Prime artifact, which Blood doesn't typically have any kind of banish power at all, so we're not going to see Prime artifact lose here. And it's going to present constant rush for a couple of turns, which is really good. And now we got even better, we drew into God Bullet Golem, which is basically the card you want when you have Prime artifact on board. They also dropped themselves 2/9, which is great for me. So we're literally 1 damage from lethal with this God Bullet next turn. It's a little disappointing, but it should be pretty easy for us to win from here. So God Bullet Golem plus its Evolve will allow me to get rid of the 6/3. God Bullet on its own will deal 7 damage to the face due to the artifact effect, and the artifact respawns the following turn. So all they have to do is clear this God Bullet Golem and they'd be okay. But making that decision would be a tricky one. See, I mean, they could have played this Vania here, traded the Vania into the 9/3, would have been pretty effective. But they probably would have lost out on the fact that they just wouldn't have been able to come back from that anyway, so that was their only probably out. I instantly win due to the fact that all I had to do was end turn for God Bullet to function, which is why I love this matchup in particular. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I had a lot of fun with this deck, and if you did watch all the way to the end here, of course, the God Bullet play was probably my favorite. I'm running just a single God Bullet, which I definitely would recommend one of in this deck, just because that Prime Artifact potential lethal combination is great. And if you're not aiming for that, you can always discard God Bullet with Deus Ex Machina quite effectively, and not really have any worry either. So it's quite solid. I've had a lot of success with this deck so far. The hardest matchup has been Sword. I've 50-50'd that roughly, which is okay. Everything else I've been pretty reasonable against. It's either been extremely close or I've had absolutely steamrolled, which is great. So, had a lot of fun. I reckon this deck will get worse as the meta stabilizes more, but if I can refine this deck down to be slightly better, then it should do fine. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. You can check out the deck list in the description below, along with any other important links, or you can go and check out my Patreon and fund me over there if you would like. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I'll catch you next time. See ya.